What's up, everybody? Back on Trust the Profits YouTube page. My name's Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down. We are fresh off of last week's win, so we're going to keep that going. This week's question of the day: does Barber Road win race 8 at Oaklawn on Saturday? I have a guest here. Let's see what he thinks. What's up, everybody? Colin Sheehan back here on Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan. I am so excited. We have a new voice on our Doubling Down program. It is the Sniper at Urban Handicapper on Twitter. Barry, what's happening?
Not much. Very excited to be here. I've talked about this a lot. Anybody that follows me anywhere, I love daily doubles. So this is like the perfect show.
You found the right place then. And so one thing you have a lot of pressure on is this is actually episode 20. So I bring out the big guns for episodes, the big numbers. And
okay.
So far through 20 episodes, I have yet to hit the red. I'm up $32. Last week we hit the daily double. It paid $32.50. My bet was $16, so it was $16.50 profit, getting me up to $32.54. But Barry, the guests on my show have been absolutely terrible. I don't even think they've been in the green since Vinny left me. So you are going to do them some help this week to try and get them out of the red. And you said you're a double player, which I like to hear. So one thing I like to talk about, I try to make this show informative for new players and entertaining for old players. And hopefully in the middle, we hit some bets. But what I like to ask you about is, and one thing, why I focus this show on the daily double is I think it's a great spot for beginners to the game who maybe have had some comfort playing, bets within a race, win, place, show, exacta, tries, to start to go into the multi-race wager. And I avoid telling people to jump into pick fours and pick fives and pick sixes because they get the nice big payouts and you'll hit some nice ones. But I feel like the daily double is a great place to kind of start to dip your toe if you're a beginner getting out of a single race, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely a foundation into the foray of multi-race bets. I mean, other than like a win bet, this is kind of just the next step, 2 winners in 2 different races. And it's very simple to explain to someone that's new. And then, it's kind of a forgotten bet in a sense too, because of those other ones like pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, pick sixes. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and you can get some value there. So it's a bet that I like to use a lot. I play a lot. I like rolling doubles, especially when I like a horse. Try to get one in between and just roll into it and out of it, and you can make some good money and keep yourself in action. If you're having a bad day or you're not doing so well, you can kind of go back to that if you want and hit something that's pretty nice that pays okay and keeps you going.
And if my guest score is any indication that the daily double doesn't mean it's easy to hit.
Oh no, it's definitely a challenge. It's always a challenge, but it's a lot easier than 3 races, so or 4 or 5 or 6. So it's always worth a shot.
And so today we are setting history because between the two of us, our bets total $5. We focus this on a $1 bet. So obviously we'll talk to you later. Although we're saying it's a $1 bet, mine is a $2 bet. If it's a bet you really like, you might put $10 as your base bet. And the one thing I love about daily doubles and exactas is make sure to check out the probables. You can get a sense of what your bet's going to pay you. And that may end up deciding on cutting off that last horse on the bet if you know you're going to be losing money on it. So let's dive right into it. We're going to Oaklawn on Saturday, December 17th. Race 7 is the first race on the daily double. We're looking at race 7 and race 8. The poinsettia stakes, 5.5 furlongs for fillies and mares, 3-year-old and up. We have a field of 8 with a tepid favorite number 2, Caribbean Caper, who started her career 5 for 5. And what's interesting to me is actually not many horses in this race have actually run 5.5 furlongs. I thought that was interesting because that's kind of the first thing I go through and look at is what do we have when you're looking at the distance of the race and who's had success over the distance. Another thing I like to look at is who's raced against each other, who's maybe done better against each other in previous races, and you have a field that hasn't really faced each other much either. So immediately I'm already starting to get a little sticky as I was going through the past performances of two things that maybe I can't rely on. I was also interested in seeing that a lot of these horses have gone six furlongs, 7 furlongs, and have shown speed that they've been able to carry 6 and 7 furlongs. Does that mean cutting back to 5.5 furlongs, they're all going to be able to kind of sprint to the race there? And does that mean I need to go with someone off the pace? So you can already see where my mind has been ticking through this race. Where did you end up landing in race 7 at Oaklawn?
I ended up on number 2, Caribbean Caper. I think that horse is a standout. That horse ripped off 5 straight victories to start the career, all at odds on except for the first one, the Maiden Breaker. She was 3-1. Other than that, you got 90 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar, all wins too, which is great. I mean, for a reliability standpoint, not so much for your pockets. Because you're not making any money betting this horse. That's why, this is a prime example why a double would make more sense than playing this horse flat. I mean, not make more sense, but in addition to possibly, but you can create some value here by connecting this race to another. And I just think Caribbean Caper is a standout. That race on November 24th, which was Thanksgiving, that was clearly a prep for this one, and this horse is going to be tough to beat.
And this horse actually has a Grade 3 win September of last year at Churchill Downs. Then he's only raced 2 times this year, once in August, once in November, 2 4th-place finishes. And this is a horse that you're probably going to figure is not going to be on the lead, maybe sitting just off the pace. And that was one reason that the note that I put is that the pace sets up well for Caribbean Caper. And I agreed that it was a horse that I didn't think I could leave off my ticket. I'm interested you said standout, because I didn't see it as much as a far away. I didn't see it as big of a standout as I'll see in the next race, which we'll disagree on, as I already know, as we saw our question of the day. And that's because I noticed that there's 3 horses here in this race that are second off the layoff. You have a lot of horses in this race that haven't raced in 5 and 6 months. And those are the ones I kind of immediately said, well, I'm going to look at the ones that at least have a race or 2 under the belt. And that's number 1, Ari Oakley, number 2, Caribbean Caper, and number 6, Sarah Harper. Number 1 at 5-1. That was what was intriguing to me, the price on that. This horse is 3 for 3 on the lead, but 0 for 5 if the horse doesn't get the lead. It's a horse by Gun Runner. And that was maybe one concern I had, is that, I can't definitively say that this is a need the lead type horse. Maybe you can. The horse has only raced 8 times, but I definitely noticed the 3 times this horse was on the front, the horse did well to hold that at 6 furlongs, then also at 5 furlongs. This is a horse for Steve Asmussen with jockey Isaac Castillo, and it's interesting to notice that Ricardo's on the number 3, and there's been some talk about, usually it was always Asmussen and Santana together, but you don't see that there, and it's almost shocking to my system. And I know that they're still on good terms, but it makes you kind of peak there, right?
So absolutely.
What do you think about the 1? Was this horse close to being on your ticket, or what am I missing?
I took a long look at the 1, but I kind of decided that because of the draw, the 1 spot, this horse has to go. I don't think that they will have the option to kind of try to sit back, because if they do, they're going to get swallowed up, because the horse number 7, Pretty Birdie, is really, really quick. And so is the outside horse, I'm the Boss of Me. Those 2 horses are definitely going to try to get to the lead. Even a horse like Quick Money, that horse hasn't, kind of showed off the pace a little bit on the turf, but I still think that horse is going to try to be really pressing the pace and try to go up front really fast. So I think the pace is really going to be sharp, which kind of scares me for a horse like Novell Squall, the 3, who is kind of almost the only closer in the race, because Caribbean Caper likes to be up close, not too far back, so they're not really a closer per se. But I think Caribbean Caper is going to sit the best trip out of anybody in here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I had that that theory went through my head until about 15 minutes before we started taping this show. And what I thought, seriously, what I thought, like, well, these horses have all been racing at longer distances, though. So is the hot pace going to matter? If they're used to going on a hot pace 6.5, 7 furlongs, they're saving on the ground is kind of where I was thinking that maybe having that early speed with the one wasn't going to be as disadvantageous. I agreed with you on what you said with the other ones. Number 7, Pretty Birdie, he tossed the last race when stumbled, is off a long layoff. The 2 times it came off a layoff were the 2 worst horse races that this horse had. And at 3-1, I think we are probably on this thinking along the same lines of maybe the 2 that might be more intriguing. So that's where I went. I'm going to stick with the 1 and the 2. And I'm hoping that 1, Ari Oakley, can get me through because I'll get the price. Barry is singling the 2 in the first leg. So we move on to race 8. And this is where I think we're going to have some fun with this because I tend to have some problems with horses that I, for some reason, get a little crush on. And when I started looking through, I actually texted the Trusted Profits group and I said, well, I can't use race 8 at Oaklawn because I'm going to have such a hard time getting past Barber Road. And then we started looking at the races and I said, well, this seems to be the most intriguing race of the sequence. So I asked you all out on Twitter, does Barber Road win his return Saturday at Oaklawn? 67% of you don't know what you're talking about, including, I think, another person I hear here, which is
I voted, by the way.
Oh, you voted. All right, so you're in there. How many times?
Just once.
So to me, Barber Road is a grinder. For those of you maybe that remember him from the Triple Crown this year, he raced in the Kentucky Derby. He raced in the Belmont, 2nd in the Arkansas Derby, 3rd in the Rebel, 2nd in the Southwest. And I've just called him a grinder. And that was kind of, I think, why I've kind of fallen on him. I did not have him winning the Belmont. I was on Mo Donegal. But I did think he was going to kind of be one that caught 2nd or 3rd. I had a big exact on Mo Donegal to Barber Road, and he really finished 7th there. Sorry, sometimes when I put these in, you never know you're going to get an eye test. I'll take Barber Road's past performances, and I threw in the street sign because I guess he has some connections to a street sign in one of the Carolinas. So,
okay.
But what I did there was highlight the 3 races. The first race was his maiden race. I never can fault a horse for the first time out. And then the Kentucky Derby, to me, is a race you always cross out. And then the Belmont, like I said, all right, it's 2 grade 1s that he had a 4th, a 6th, and a 7th. Other than that, it's 1st or 2nd, and the speed figures continue to increase. He hasn't raced in 6 months, so I guess that could be a reason maybe you don't put him in. But he's getting a pretty big class release here. And to me, man, if I don't pick Barber Road, and I see the morning line at 4-5, right? It's hard to, you either have to, as we talked about the doubles, you either have to take a 4-5, and that's can be your only choice, or you can go against them, right? I'm assuming you would agree with that theory.
Yeah, it's kind of a all or nothing deal, and I chose nothing.
Well, I chose to stick with my boy Barber Road. I'm going to single him in this race. I just think he's better than what he's up against here. And sure, someone on Twitter, sorry, I forget who said it, was, oh, he's always just an underneath horse. And yeah, he's an underneath horse when you're putting him against grade 1, grade 2 company of 3-year-olds. I think we saw that the 3-year-olds have held their own, and the ones that have tried to step up against 4-5, 6-year-olds. So I'm not really concerned about that. The one thing I'd be concerned about, of course, as I mentioned, is he hasn't raced since June. His workouts aren't like popping off the page at me, but that's not the kind of horse he is, man. He just, he does his thing, and then he comes and he doesn't stop coming. And a lot of these horses also haven't really had a ton of experience at the mile and the 16th. I know he's going to be okay with the distance. So I'm sticking with Barber Road unless you now have the soapbox to try to convince me to go elsewhere.
Well, I'll speak to Barber Road first. I made a proclamation sometime in March of last year after Barber Road got beat by Un Ojo. And I said, anybody that gets beat by Un Ojo, I will never bet. and I'm gonna stick to that. You know, there's some things against this horse, especially at a short price that I don't like. Um, Typically, horses that come off layoffs, you know, aren't fully cranked up going this long, so that could be an issue. Um, and his running styles is definitely something that I don't enjoy. um, Closers like that, I mean, he's definitely getting a lot of class relief here. Um, but closers just have problems always, you know, whether it's traffic or just being too late, mistimed by the rider. There's a lot more that can go wrong with a closer than with someone that's closer to the pace. So I'm gonna side against Barber Road on this day, on Saturday, and there's three horses that I'm gonna use. The first is number 2, Malibu SS. And I found this horse pretty interesting because this horse is going to show speed, stretching out kind of. I know this horse won last time going a mile, um, but it was a much improved race from all the others. I mean, he had one race at Indiana Grand, um, broke his maiden at 6 furlongs back in May, then kind of progressed and you know took some time off, showed up at Saratoga in a short 6 furlong sprint and didn't run all that great. There was only 7 horses in the field. He finished fourth, 17 lengths back. Then stretched out a little bit and got better. In this at Churchill a month later, and then showed up going even longer and wins. Now his speed figures aren't that great, but I think his running style fits here, especially if people fall asleep at the wheel. And there's a possibility that could happen, and this horse could kind of get his own way out in front, which would be great at 15-1 morning line. So that's really the angle there. Then I took number 9, Disc Jockey, who I think has just been solid all the way around and getting his shot finally at a stakes race. And I think this horse earned his way in. He's going to be up close to the pace, not on it or not in the lead, but close enough to attack at the top of the stretch, which is kind of a good move at Oaklawn from what I've seen. I mean, I'm not a huge Oaklawn player, but I do watch a lot of their races. He's coming in, you know, with 3 wins off the claim, or 2 wins off the claim, but 3 in a row. And I think Diodoro has this one kind of ready to give a great effort. And then another long shot that I'm going to use is the 10 Stormy Pattern. And it's along the same lines as why I like the 2 horse Malibu SS. I think there's a situation where this horse could kind of reach the lead and kind of have his own way. I've seen Mike Maker with these kind of horses. He claimed this horse a $20,000 claim back in October and ends up in this spot. And looking through this horse's past performances, it's kind of a wonder why they didn't stick to going long, or at least over a mile or over with this horse, because he doesn't really do all that great at sprint distances. And I think this might be an opportunity for him. Mike Maker does really well with these kind of horses. Gets Joe Talmo, who rides pretty well at Oaklawn. I don't think he has a win yet, but you know it's early in the meet. But he's a good one to throw in there to price, and maybe we can get that guest value or the the ROI up a little bit.
I knew you were going to pick against Barber Road. I would have saved you for another week, but that's okay. That's okay. The other, I will agree with you on number 9. He was the one that I had written down as the other option if I was going to move away from Barber Road, and I think you have made some good cases for that 10 as well. This 9 Disc Jockey also has a Jockey Torres who's 35%, and as you said, Diodoro is at 40%. So you definitely have a really strong jockey trainer combination there. The speed figures using Brisnet also fit in off that last race, although it was Remington November 8th, earned a 94 Brisnet speed figure, which certainly that's right on par for what they have pegged at this race, which is 94. which is what Barber Road got in the Belmont Stakes, I'll add. So easy peasy for Barber Road.
Yeah, easy.
And I'm being a little, you know, I'm sure you have a horse too, though, that you kind of just, you get in these situations and there's a horse you like and you kind of, you're betting more with your heart than your head.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But when you do that, and I'll put our tickets up here because what we'll talk about a little bit before we end the show here is how you might play something like this. So obviously I'm going to look at what the probables are for these two horses going to Barber Road, because Barber Road's 4-5 on the morning line. That I was kind of surprised to see that he was that low. I didn't know he would be 4-5 when I was talking to you about picking him. So I'll pay attention to those probables, and you know, for the purpose of this show, we base it on a $1 bet. That's how I can keep my math all straight. But you know, on day of, I might do something like a $10 1-2 with the 1 once I see what those payouts would be. And I assume that that's maybe the way that you said before this, you're going to play your ticket as well.
Yeah, definitely going to spend up, because I think the 2 is probably going to get bet in race 7 quite a bit. So I'm gonna you know, obviously up the ante on that one, and probably $10 ones. You know, so it'd be a $30 ticket for me. And if we can get the 2 or the 10, you know, that would be really great. And even if the 9 comes in, it would probably be second or third choice in this race. It's still going to pay pretty decent. So it's not too much of a leap. You know, I try to stay away from consecutive chalks unless they're just totally standoutish to me and just, you know, really look like nobody else can beat them. I don't think that's the case here. So we're going to try to beat Barber Road for sure.
If you do have 2 standouts back to back and you're really comfortable, daily double is the perfect way to play them as opposed to win bet, because you're going to get 2-1 on the 2, you know, 2 heavy favorites probably. And that's the way that I always look. I always look at that, and I always look at like an exacta with a favorite that you are really confident in with, you know, 2 or 3 of the lowest price horses, because you'd be surprised how many times that comes in as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough because, you know, the handicapping and the analysis can only get you so far. It's how you bet them is going to make you money. So that's really the biggest dilemma, and that's where I spend a lot of my time constructing tickets and making a betting plan in order to get, you know, to where I need to be. And it's not easy, especially with all the tracks out there and all the races during the day. You know, you got to just make decisions, and that's the toughest part, especially for new players. There's so much variety in so many places and so many bets that you can make. You know, it's good. Like, you know, this show, for example, is very good because it's teaching everyone that, you know, maybe keeping it simple might be the way to go.
Keep it simple, stupid. And as I always like to say on this show, they can't blame us, Barry, because we only cost them $5. So
that's right. It wasn't me. Not my fault.
So a $2 bet this week, but hopefully Barber Road can do it for me. I'm going to go check those Twitter poll results, because hopefully some people have woken up to what Barber Road hopefully will do. And I say that tongue in cheek. So I'm going 1-2 with the 1 for $2 for Saturday, December 17th, race 7 and 8 at Oaklawn. Barry's going 2 in the first leg with the 2, 9, 10. It'll cost you $3. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see how you do. If you hit, then you're always welcome back.
All right. I'll be. Wait.